Hi there, I'm here with my dad with Dry Bones engine, small engines, and he's been kind enough to take us on a video tour of some backpack blowers that he's working on. And that's the lineup. Take it away, Dad.
So today, I've got a collection of BR700s from the STIHL and BR600s. They've come in for service, basically to get them ready for spring and summer use. I go through, clean them up, make sure that they're running properly. One thing that is usually always a problem is the valve adjustment, the valve lash, that has to be adjusted. And then secondly, where you see this buildup of dirt and oil, that's a telltale sign that we may be getting leakage from the crankcase. And if you get leakage, you're going to have reduced compression, as well as you're going to be introducing air into your air-fuel mixture that doesn't come through the carburetor, and that messes up your idling as well. So we're going to go into the shop now, and I've got one partially taken apart, and I'll show you how to check for these common problems. All right, today we have a BR600 we're going to be working on. I've already taken off the outside engine cover, taken off the air filter, as well as the fuel tank to give you a better view of this. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that there's a lot of oil. I'm going to turn on the light here, and do you see all that oil on the engine? And then come on over to this other side, you can see that as well. That oil there is probably coming from gasoline with your two-cycle oil that's leaking out. The gasoline evaporates, the oil stays behind. That's why it looks greasy, oily like that. And so this is a telltale sign that we've got some engine problems. And we're going to test to see if the engine crankcase is actually leaking. The first thing that I'm going to do is take off the valve cover here. So I'll remove the screw, and then we'll remove the valve cover. Here we can see the intake valve, the exhaust valve. And to adjust your valve clearance, you use a feeler gauge. This is a 4 thousandths or 0.10 millimeters. And I can just slide it in. That means that it's properly adjusted. I've pre-adjusted both of these. And so they're ready to go. Just at the right, you should be able to just slide it in with a little bit of resistance. We've got these set. Without these being set properly, your valve will not stay open the proper amount of time. So you'll not be getting the exhaust leaving, nor the fuel air mixture coming in. It will oftentimes be very hard to pull over, as well as it will run poorly. And so I adjust these first thing on basically all STIHL 4-mix engines that come in, because they always need adjustment.
So do you have to, can you just do a cold adjustment on these, or do you also have to adjust them once they're hot?
You always do it cold.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay, so just put that cover back on.
Some motors you have to set it at a hot lash.
Yes.
Like once it's up to running temperature,
Yeah.
you reset it. But
STIHL tells us to always do it on a cold engine. So I just screw this down. And then the next thing we're going to do is check the cylinder for leakage. Now, on this cylinder, there's two parts. You have the upper cylinder with your piston, and your crank goes right through the middle. And then the bottom half is called your sump or pan. And if you can see this little red stuff, this is a RTV, special RTV gasket that you use. And that can leak as well right behind the flywheel, right where I'm pointing. There's an oil seal at the front, oil seal at the back. And they can also leak as well. And so we're going to test this out with a special tester. This is a vacuum pressure gauge. It's the Mighty Vac 8500. And we can create vacuum as well as pressure. And so I'll show you how we're going to hook that up. Now, I've taken off the carburetor, and in order to test, you have to plug all the sources where pressure could leak out. So this is the impulse line. I put a plug in here, just like this here, and that will seal off that. Have my spark plug in, have my valve cover on. And then on the muffler, between the engine block and the muffler, right over the exhaust port, I've got a rubber gasket. This is made out of a tire tube, and that will seal that. So you have to remove part of your muffler, slide that down, and then screw it back tight. So we're sealing off the engine so that when we do pressurize it, we'll see if it is leaking and where it may be leaking.
Okay.
In order to test the pressure, you have to make an adapter. This is where your carburetor would mount. And so I've made an adapter. You can buy one from STIHL perhaps if you're a dealer, but I've rigged up my own. Here's a piece of aluminum plate, a rubber gasket, and this is a grease zerk. I've removed the spring and ball bearing out of that, and then I can take my hose and attach it right to here to create pressure. So I'm going to go ahead now and mount this onto my carburetor, or this would actually be the manifold, and this is a M6 screw. And we'll just get this mounted on there, and then I'm going to tighten it down to a reasonable, common sense amount of pressure, about as tight as you'd have a carburetor, just enough to seal it off.
Pretty small fastener.
Yes. Okay, so ready now to take and test it out. Now I've taken the piston up to top dead center, and you want it to top dead center so both of your valves are closed when you do this test here. And then we'll put the tube on, and with my Mighty Vac, I can create pressure and I can create vacuum. I'm going to turn it down to the vacuum, and we take it up to the 0.5 setting, which is your metric, or the 15 inches of mercury for the imperial. And so you can see I'm creating vacuum. Okay, just about there. Now you want to watch your needle. If it starts to go down, which is losing vacuum, then you've got a problem. That needle should stay constant. So on this engine, you can see that needle is going down. We've gone from 15 inches of mercury, we're just about down to 5 now. So what this engine is doing, it is sucking in air. And that shows us that there's some leakage somewhere. Then the next thing, on my Mighty Vac, I turn it to pressure, and we're going to pressurize the engine. And I'll pump it up again to where we get to the 0.5 bar.
Now, do we need to hold the crank? So it doesn't...
That should be pretty good. So I've got to the 5 bar or the 7.5 psi, and you can see the needle is going down as well. So we've got a vacuum leak, we've got a pressure leak.
Now it seems like the vacuum maybe goes down faster than the pressure does.
It could be, yes. And so another thing we're going to do is we're going to try to pinpoint where is this leakage. With the vacuum, it's pretty hard to tell, but with the pressure, I can spray soapy water on, and we're going to see if we can find out. So I'm going to take it back up to the 5 bar here.
Maybe I can hold that light.
Sure. Okay.
And that way you can squirt the bottle.
Okay, let me get it back up. Oh, the way it keeps going down pretty rapidly. And when you do this test, you always want to make sure that all your connections are not leaking, just to eliminate that it's not a human problem. And so there, we're good there at the muffler. We're good there at the impulse. Now, I'm going to spray the engine here. Okay.
Pretty obvious already.
Yeah. Can you see those bubbles there?
Mm-hmm.
So we got bubbles coming out here, all around, bubbles coming out where your screw is. And then doesn't look like the seal is leaking there. Come on this other side and we'll see.
A little bit back there.
Yeah, get a little bit of leakage back in there too.
The big one.
Okay, so I'm going to let off the pressure, and the next thing will be then I've got to remove the engine from here. So it's going to, we call it removing or pulling the engine. And once I take the engine out, be something like this. I've taken the engine out of another one. This is off of a BR600, and I have to separate the two halves of the engine. I'll replace the oil seals, and then I'll put it back together and torque it. And on this one, after I repaired it, I pressure tested it, and it held pressure. So that is good. And so that's how we test for cylinder leakage. Again, if you get that vacuum loss, it's going to be pulling in air on your intake stroke, and it's going to mix air from outside with your fuel air mixture, and it will mess up your idle. On the pressure stroke, the intake pressure stroke, the compression stroke, what's going to happen is you're going to blow out the fuel air that's in your cylinder, and that's going to reduce your compression, which will of course reduce your power as well, and it won't work as efficiently. So here's just a couple of things that I found. Now, these are the oil seals that you get from the STIHL dealer, and I'll be putting those in. And then STIHL has a special kind of gasket material. This is what they call the red gasket material, Pacten 6075. And again, you can get that from your STIHL dealer as well. And so that's basically how you test.
And you said that that was a gasoline resistant.
Yes, it is gasoline resistant, and it works really good. It's a bit pricey, but it works. And so I would recommend that you do that. And then once we have that rebuilt, put back together, we'll mount it back on, put everything all together, and then hopefully it works good. We'll have the carburetor back on. I'll adjust the carburetor to factory specs, which is for your low idle will be 2,500 RPM, and then we should be able to get over 7,000 RPM at full wide open throttle. And that's basically what we do. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for the helpful input, Dad.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, just put them down below in the comment section.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.